800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
On First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, an isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Window World of St. Louis. For replacement windows, doors, and siding, call 800-GET-WINDOWS. That's 800-GET-WINDOWS.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
When you count on Connor, you're getting the timeless American values that have guided our company from day one. Hard work, impeccable service, and honesty. At Connor Roofing, you aren't just getting a roof, you're getting safeguarded by a neighbor who cares. When you count on Connor, you're receiving protection for your home, your family, and your peace of mind.
Visit ConnorRoofing.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. We keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
You got a strong jobs report today that beat expectations.
Not strong. Really strong.
Beat expectations.
By how much? Triple.
172,000 jobs created.
Well, that was probably the tamest part of the wild and woolly interview between President Donald J. Trump and Kristen Welker of Meet the Depressed. And if you're wondering what the noise was, Chris, I think they were out in like a tin barn or something up in Wisconsin for one of these farm fairs, and it was pouring rain. And about maybe, I don't know, were they halfway, 2/3 of the way through the interview, Donald Trump had enough. And it was only the second time in 12 years that he walked out of an interview. Just shows the patience of Job generally. But Kristen Welker pushed him too far.
I think he also lost patience because they had to stop that interview 3 times during the interview, and they had to delay it for 10 or 15 minutes. The president said, look, I've been with you for an hour. We've gone through the disruptions, the breaks. I'm tired of your questions, and I'm out of here. You know, when I watched that interview yesterday, I couldn't wait to get in and talk to Joey, our broadcast engineer, audio expert. And I wanted to ask you, Joey, was there any way that they could have, like, with that loud rain, kind of edited that out, for lack of a better word? Not edit, but bring the sound down on it where you just heard the voices? Or is that possible?
I mean, you could throw it through some AI, and then it would make it sound a little less real, but it would be completely clear. Yeah, that's annoying. I did a live broadcast once at a county fair, and it was just pouring on top of the metal tin roof, and it was just miserable, setting all that up and then taking it away. I can imagine how Kristen Welker felt when she said, "But sir, we drove all the way to Wisconsin to meet you." Like, nah, I'm out of here.
And Tim, he didn't hold back. He said NBC's corrupt, you're corrupt,
he went
Meet
off.
the Press is corrupt,
Yeah.
CNN, ABC, CBS, you're all corrupt.
Corrupt and crooked, and he let them have it. You know, this is Donald Trump Unchained. A lot of folks don't like this. I get it. Look, I understand. But on the other hand, Chris, I am so happy to see someone finally calling out these networks.
Yeah.
I know that politicians are taught to be they're taught to just go with the flow, ignore the idiot media, don't take the bait, don't inflame the situation. But I think the common man and woman back home is going, yeah, give it to him. I'm sick and tired of the BS. And, you know, to the president's point, for the president to give NBC News an hour plus of his time, I think he gave him maybe 55 minutes too long. But anyway, he gave him an hour. They kept having to stop because of the rain. And then she just was that clip we played was the least combative clip of the whole thing. And she even wanted to argue with him about how great the jobs numbers were.
Yeah.
They're really great. Oh, they're not that great. They're really great. They're not that great. It's like, come on, you know?
Yeah, he really went off when they started talking about the elections and that they're rigged. That's what really set him off. I mean, on one part of that conversation, he said, if you don't see the corruption that's involved in these elections, you're stupid. Said that straight to her. You're either in denial or stupid.
With the background of the California election to this day, right? That interview was a day or two ago. We are here on Monday, 6 days post-election day in California. Chris, they are still counting ballots. And I think people go, what in the world? And lo and behold, all the Democrats that were behind on Election Day, amazingly, they're all catching up and surpassing the very few Republicans that are still left in the California state.
Yeah, and I subjected myself to MSNBC this afternoon. I wanted to hear what the liberals are saying about Kristen Welker's interview, what's happening in Iran and Israel. This is how they're spinning the election, Tim. They're saying that if the Democrats really wanted to steal the election, they would have called the election on the first night. But because it's taking so long, that shows their diligence, Tim, on trying to get the election right. That's their spin.
Oh, is that it?
That's the spin.
There are so many problems. California, look, there's a lot of states that have certain things wrong with their elections, and we could sit here and detail all of those painstakingly. California has all of them, right? California has all the things in one giant left-wing liberal melting pot that you're not supposed to do in elections, and they do them. They've got the ranked choice voting. They've got the jungle primaries. They've got the mail-in voting. And not only is it mail-in voting for people who may need to mail in their vote, they send the ballots out to everyone. Mm-hmm. They don't care if you're alive, if you're dead, if you're just passing through California. They don't care if you've just landed on a boat from Madagascar. I mean, they could care less. They want everybody who might vote for their particular Democratic candidate to vote.
And California, of course, is the most populous state in the nation. They have a lot of people, but Florida has a lot of people, too. And It's amazing how after the debacle of the 2000 election, how Florida reined in their laws, they reined in their election system, they did a lot of things to correct it. And Florida now has one of the best electoral systems in the country. They get their elections results the same night. I even heard one...
Long before we go to bed.
Long before we go to bed. I even heard one NBC political analyst was saying that, I remember this is a new phenomena of this elections not being known until later in the day. It's always been like that. Back in the 1800s, they used to know... wouldn't find out the results of elections till weeks and months later. I'm like, that is absolute BS. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I always remember that when I went to bed, because I was a political nerd like that, when I went to bed in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we always knew who the president was that was elected. We always knew who the governor was. We always knew who the senator was going to be. This is a new phenomenon of it taking 2-3 weeks, a month to get election results. This is not new in the modern era.
That is exactly right. And anybody wants to argue that point, you're completely wrong. And this was never an issue, and we'll use Florida as an example of a state that used to be bad and is now good. This was never an issue, like you said, growing up through most of our early adult lives until the famous hanging Chad election of 2000. 2000.
2000.
2000.
That was 2000.
The famous election. So this is a 25-year-old phenomenon. This has not been going on for generations and hundreds of years. Yeah, we used to have to deliver the mail by horse. we used
and I think we got the election results quicker than we have in California and on the West Coast.
Yeah, carrier pigeons, horses, and Morse code, and we used to know them better. And for people to say, "Oh, well, there was nobody living in the country back then." No, we've had a robust population in this country for many generations now. We've had tens and hundreds of millions of people now. We're at an all-time high now, ish, but we've had a lot of people like this, and this is a recent phenomenon. And Chris, it's not just making sure the Democrat wins over the Republican. In California, it's making sure the right Democrat wins, right? And I found a clip today. It went viral. I think Vic may have played it this morning. This was 2010, and this was Kamala Harris when she first ran for California Attorney General. Listen what happened barely 16 years ago.
4 weeks after the November 2nd election, California finally has declared a winner in the Attorney General race. Harris finished so close to her Republican opponent that it took a month to finish counting every vote. She won by less than 1 percentage point.
Okay, so that was Democrat-Republican. But, Chris, that was 16 years ago, California, and maybe that was the first time they did it, but they always seem 4 weeks later, oh, look at that, Kamala Harris just won.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the electoral system when it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks to count the votes and get results. Like I said, they tried to spin it. That shows how diligent and how careful they're trying to be with the votes. No, it shows me that there's the potential of cheating going on. It shows me the potential of what happened with Al Franken, Senate vote up in Minnesota, where the incumbent, Senator Coleman, was well ahead of the race. That race took weeks before it was called. And famously, remember, they ended up finding ballots in the back of a car that they counted.
Yes.
That they counted these votes that were found a few weeks later in the back of a car. And Al Franken ended up squeaking out that vote and becoming United States Senator.
Remember this?
And you wonder why we are, why we don't trust elections when they linger on and on, when vote counting lingers on and on and on.
And I should have finished my sentence earlier. I said California tries to, get everybody to vote. Whether they should be voting or not is the end of my sentence. Whether they should be eligible to vote or not. They don't care. They don't care if you're eligible to vote or not. They just want to get to the result they want. Similar situation. Do you remember the story? I think it may have been the 2016 election where in upstate New York, they found the ballots in that clerk's drawer. Yeah. It was our friend, we interviewed her, the Republican congresswoman up there. She lost, Claudia Tenney.
Okay.
She lost, and then she came back and won. But the one she lost, I think, maybe she hung on and won by a hair, and then she lost later, and then she came back. They literally found, big air quotes, ballots in the bottom drawer of a clerk's desk in the county clerk's office.
Happens time and time and time again. But if Republicans bring up situations like that, we're just a bunch of electoral conspiracists.
So the president was frustrated because, he was talking instead of focusing on what's happening right now in California, suddenly the conversation between the president and Kristen Welker went back to 2020. That inflamed. Kristen Welker should have known that he was going to get aggravated about that, but she kept just drilling him
on purpose.
And it probably was. And well, yeah, and then I don't think she realized he was going to get up and leave, because then she was all upset with herself because the interview was over.
Yeah.
And he had given her an hour of his presidential time, which is incredibly generous of him.
Especially with the rain delay.
Yeah, and he probably had to get off to somewhere else. And so, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, very enlightening interview on the media and how they're biased and how they are looking for clicks, and everything that President Trump does is some type of conspiracy, or they are against him. It's so obvious. And, the latest thing that's happening now is, Tim, they are suing to have the UFC fight canceled.
I saw that
on the lawn of the White House, because they're saying, one is that you have to have park approval to have an event like that. They're claiming that the president is profiting from this event, and they're saying because they're using loudspeakers that disrupts sacred sites like the Vietnam Memorial because that people go there to reflect and honor the dead, and because there will be loudspeakers, people there will be able to hear that, and that's disrupting them paying homage to these soldiers. And look, that's a good argument. I understand that, but there's two things. One, it's one day, and two, we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country's birth. Either go the day before the event or go after the event to the memorial.
What about when there are massive demonstrations and protests and marches on the right and the left on the National Mall, which happen year-round? And what about the sound of gunfire, which used to ring out across Washington, D.C., until this president cleaned that up? Well, we also had a lot of news over the weekend, whipsawing news back and forth about where we are with ceasefires versus a continuation of the hostilities in the Middle East. Thank goodness we have, almost like we planned it, former U.S. Senator, Chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, Jim Talent, joins us at 4:25 as he does every Monday. Where are we in this situation? The latest news I heard, and this may have changed in the last 20 minutes, that Israel and Iran have returned to a new ceasefire agreement after the president demanded an end to all the shooting. And we'll see whether or not they straighten anything out. Of course, we've been talking to you for weeks about the hang-ups. That is the Strait of Hormuz. That is the enriched uranium. And that is whether or not Iran can stop attacking its neighbors with its proxies. So, Chris, we'll talk to Jim Talent about
a
all
lot
that.
to talk to him about that. There's elections, a special election happening over in the Great Britain that will determine the direction of who's going to be the prime minister.
Big story.
You've got the Chinese president who is visiting North Korea. So a lot to talk with the senator about at 4:25.
What is up at Chris's Corner?
You
at
know,
4:45?
speaking of Israel, Chris's Corner subject today is, have the Democrats abandoned Israel? There was an interesting article on Axios today regarding that, and some Jewish Democratic leaders expressing concerns that their party is abandoning Israel and the Jewish people. And I have a commentary on that at 4:45.
At 5:45, at 5:05, the Speaker's stump speech will be titled, "You Cannot Be Serious!" ? And I was inspired by an email I receive every Sunday, Bruce Melman's 6-Chart Sunday. I think I've talked about this before. It's a free email that this fella Bruce Melman sends out. He does a very famous Substack, and on Sundays he sends out his 6-Chart Sunday review. And these are 6 topics that you cannot believe, but they are possibly true. So I thought that'd be an interesting way to kick off the week. And then, of course, we will speak with Susie Moore at 5:25. Scott Pelley, Chris, he's on the grievance circuit. He's talking to all his buddies in the media about how horribly he's been treated and about the death of journalism. I think it's so funny when the left talks about the death of journalism, because I think they killed it a long time ago.
That is my Chris's commentary for tomorrow. Scott Pelley did an interview with the New York Times, and I'm going to break down his grievances tomorrow on Chris's Corner.
Susie Moore, give us a little preview of that, and she will talk about the rest of the very famous Red State headlines that are up. You can check out everything Red State's working on at redstate.com. Susie, of course, the co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show every Monday through Friday here at News Talk STL from 5:30 to 9 a.m. At 5:45.
Yeah, we had a couple examples last week, Tim, of some congressional bipartisanship. And I'll tell you what those are at 5:45.
Strangely enough, bipartisanship still popping up in today's world. All right, it is, oh my goodness, going to be a fast show today. It always is on Monday because we have so much to catch up on from the weekend. And Chris, we may have to get back to this later. A new Fox News headline just popped up right before we went on the show. Listen to this headline. Pima County Sheriff, that's Arizona, Pima County Sheriff issues alert for a kidnapping suspect less than 10 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. Separate incident, same type of crime. Could the two possibly be related? Has there been a break in the case? We'll check out the news on that maybe later in the show.
Yeah, very interested in that. And I hope that we can get to the latest incident of children gone wild. You heard about the Sky Zone incident this weekend?
Yes.
Crazy.
Horror breaking out everywhere. Come on, parents. Where are you these days that we always ask? Get off my lawn. Hey, 4:22 in the PM. When we come back, what is next in the Middle East? Is there any progress in the Russia-Ukraine war? Also, a lot of very other interesting international news that we will break down with Jim Talent next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime,
Everywhere.
anywhere.
Hey, let me ask you, is 2026 the year you finally buy that home? If it is, Royal Banks, Missouri is the kind of place you want on your side. Their mortgage team doesn't just hand you a rate and send you on your way. They actually walk you through the whole process. And that matters because there's no call center, no out-of-town decision maker. You're dealing with local people who know this market and are working for you. Now, maybe you already are in your home. You've been thinking about making it better, maybe a backyard upgrade, a patio, finally taking that family trip you've been putting off. That's where a home equity line of credit comes in. It gives you the flexibility to use the value you've already built in your home to actually enjoy your life a little more. It's simple, it's convenient, and it gives you peace of mind. Give them a call today at 314-212-1500 or visit royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com to get started. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities, one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
The Israeli military told NBC News this morning Iran fired approximately 30 missiles, most of them shot down. Israel responded to Iran's attack within hours, the Israeli military hitting a petrochemical plant in Iran. After Iran's attack, Trump told Axios he would ask Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not to retaliate. And he told the Financial Times that Netanyahu will have to accept any deal the U.S. negotiates with Iran. Quote, he won't have any choice. I call all the shots. He doesn't call the shots.
Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator Jim Talent, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Can't complain. Can't complain. We got a lot to get to today, as usual.
No. Well, okay. I won't complain.
All right. Israel or Iran over the weekend attacked Israel with missiles, and I got to tell you, Senator, I think that the main reason why Iran attacked Israel was not to create any serious damage to Israel, but I think it was to damage the peace process. I think they saw the news reports of a heated conversation between the president and Netanyahu, and I think that this missile attack was basically to try to drive a wedge between the United States and Israel to disrupt the peace process. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. And, they saw potential air between, air, I mean AIR, space between the United States and Israel, and decided to try to exploit that. It's a little bit difficult because to draw any clear conclusions, Chris, because Hezbollah is in trouble in Lebanon. The Israelis have occupied not only up to the Litani River, but beyond that. They've taken a very important command center called Beaufort Castle, and they're taking apart the security structure, the tunnel system that Hezbollah has built there, and Hezbollah is in trouble, and they're really the last important proxy that Iran has left. So I think part of this is probably trying to deter the Israelis. So what they worked out was a proportionate response, which is in keeping with how the president's been keeping the lid on this for the last month or so. In other words, the Iranians attack us with fast boats or something, and we respond decisively but proportionately, taking out targets on Karg Island, radar, that sort of thing. And that's what the Israelis did. And when you consider that Iran and Hezbollah's attacks, well, Hezbollah's attacks in northern Israel have been harmful, but Iran's attacks on us haven't. So I think the president's going to try and confine response to proportionate ones until he sees whether he can complete this deal.
Senator, so we have been whipsawing back and forth between hostilities and then ceasefires, and as of right now, it sounds like we may have entered a new ceasefire phase. And amidst the background of that seems to be some tension between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump. Does Netanyahu need to follow the president's lead maybe a little closer, or what say you as to that?
Well, I think up to anything short of a direct attack on Israel, I think Netanyahu will accede to the president's wishes when he sees the broader strategic perspective. I mean, which is, okay, so we have stripped Iran of the vast majority of their military capability, and we are squeezing them ruthlessly economically, and not just through the blockade, although they didn't export any oil in May, which is like 80% of their revenue's gone. And they do have to run their system. They don't have to do anything for their people, but they have to run their system. So we've got this economic blockade. We just sanctioned, I think the name of it is Novatex, which is their chief crypto exchange. I mean, Bessent is like a bull out there taking out different parts of their economic structure. And I think the president is counting on that to force Iran in the intermediate term to do what we want. And in the meantime, the president's trying to keep a lid on things. But I think when Israel is attacked directly, they have to respond. And if you recall, after Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran sent some missiles into Israel. And the president and Netanyahu worked it out that Israel would respond once. And they did, and now they've done it again, and Iran has said, okay, we're not attacking anymore. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the big thing for me, and I mentioned this in the show before, that I would ask the president if I could talk to him is why we just don't force the Strait open using naval power. This blockade and this economic pressure will work in the intermediate term, especially since the Saudis and the UAE are upping their export of oil through other means. I mean, there's a reason oil is only, quote unquote, at $91 a barrel today. But I'd like to see us just force the Strait. Again, my guess is objections and concerns from our Gulf allies. I mean, the president is managing this coalition, which I think, as we emerge from this, is going to be running the Middle East, and that's vastly preferable to Iran having the initiative. But it's difficult to manage it, and he's doing it.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, of course, the other major war going on in the world is between Ukraine and Russia. For the 2 weeks in a row, Ukraine drones have struck St. Petersburg. That's about 600 miles within Russia. How significant is this?
Very significant. They're taking out key economic nodes, military nodes, and remember, a lot of what Russia has done has moved its logistics behind the lines and was back into Russia over the last couple of years, thinking they were safe. Well, they're not safe. So this is affecting what's happening on the battlefield. I mean, Ukrainians are recapturing some territory, and all this is very good. I mean, I think the way to get Putin to the table is if the facts on the battlefield start to change. So he's losing more and more people. There's more and more people complaining about it in Russia, to include, his super patriotic wing, which is wondering what's happening here, and that's putting pressure on Putin. So this is moving in the right direction. And guys, a lot of it, people don't think of Trump as a friend of Ukraine, but he loosened the rules of engagement for them so they could attack behind the lines. I mean, Biden wouldn't let him do it, and Trump is letting him do it, and it's making a difference.
Senator, we celebrated. Celebrated maybe as we honored, we respected another anniversary, another D-Day anniversary over the weekend, and I caught a little bit of the coverage of J.D. Vance's trip to Normandy and a little bit of his speech there. And Senator, he issued yet another round of warnings to Europe that the Trump administration has repeatedly issued over the last many years about what has been their completely unfettered, unmitigated immigration crisis. And he said, J.D. Vance basically, made mention of the evils that we battled in World War II, and then made the point that, Europe's kind of gotten a little lackadaisical about its sovereignty and about its borders over the last many decades. Senator, is Europe getting the memo on this at all? Are they starting to do anything differently?
Well, I think a lot of people in Europe are, Tim, but I think the elites are finding it hard to admit how utterly they've failed in the last 10 years. I don't say that, by the way, with any glee. And I think the vice president, well, let me step back and say it's part of our national security strategy to restore civilizational confidence. And everybody knows who that's aimed at. It's at the Europeans. I mean, the migration stuff it's a huge issue and a huge threat, but it's part of a broader problem, which is they don't seem to value their own heritage anymore. And it's in part our heritage. And so it's like, okay, what is this alliance standing for if we don't respect and cherish our own history and our own traditions? And Vance has been very effective in talking about that. Now, there's a lot of movement. I mean, there's movements within Europe, within each one of these European countries, to try and change this. But it's hard to say that the establishment's gotten the message. And frankly, this is not the vice president. This is Talent, Jim Talent here. Mm-hmm. I don't think, as long as the EU is exercising the control it exercises over its nation states, I don't think they're going to get the message. I mean, if ever there was a calcified group of out-of-touch and alienated bureaucrats, it's the EU. And they're just going to keep circling the wagons, trying to censor dissent, moving at a snail's pace to do things they need to do, like rebuild defenses or get control of migration. So I'm always an optimist about our country, and I think we have now reasons for optimism. You saw the jobs report the other day. But I can't say I'm optimistic about Western Europe.
Mm-hmm. Senator, a couple of weeks ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin visited China. This week, the Chinese president is visiting North Korea. A lot of people call those three countries the axis of evil. What is the Chinese president up to with these diplomatic trips?
That's a good question because he doesn't travel much. He did in his first term. Of course, he's president for life now. But he hasn't been traveling much. So my read on this, Chris, it's a little bit different than a lot of people's. So the North Koreans have continue to be aggressive in their nuclear program. And they've been getting, I believe they've been getting technology from the Russians in return for the way they've been helping Russia in Ukraine. And there's a sort of growing closeness between North Korea and Russia, and I don't think Xi Jinping likes it at all. I don't think he's worried about Russian influence in that part of the world. The Russian state's become too weak. But I think he is worried about keeping a leash on Xi Jinping. And the Chinese do not want instability in the peninsula. So I think this trip is sort of a reassertion of control. We've talked about this before, that the last thing in the world, the Chinese don't mind a little nuclear saber rattling by Kim Jong-un, but they don't want a conflict on the peninsula, especially anything that could escalate into the nuclear domain. So that's my read on this. He meets with Putin. I imagine he had a few messages for him, and now he's meeting with Kim Jong-un, and he wants them both to continue playing Beijing's game.
Senator, we've spoken frequently about the swing back towards the right in South and Central America. There have been many now very famous conservative and libertarian candidates who have won election. Probably one of the most famous, Javier Milei, there in Argentina. Senator, we don't often talk about Peru, but they seem to be having a bit of a renaissance there as well. Now, the votes are still being counted. Sounds like California. And right now, the left-leaning Sanchez is ahead of the right-leaning Fujimori. But, Senator, is this just whether or not who wins, does this show that maybe the leftist populism is starting to wane further in South America?
It comes in. It tends to come in waves. I think the effectiveness of the government in El Salvador in cutting down on crime, in Argentina in promoting economic growth, and the decisive leadership of the United States on behalf of common interests, chiefly stopping narco-terrorism and ejecting adversarial influence from the region. I think that's changing the direction of travel of the region. People tend to respond to strong leadership that is common sense leadership as well. And I think that's what you're getting from the United States now. So I think, again, the direction of travel is favorable, but everybody, gets to pick their own leaders. We'll see how this turns out. I know what I would like to see, but I think the overall trend lines are very good. And it's not remarked on a lot, but the fact that the national security strategy mentions first the Western Hemisphere is very important. And we've got control of the Panama Canal back now. We've got Venezuela moving in the right direction. And this, by the way, connects to the Middle East because Hezbollah has strong ties with the Venezuelan government, or had it. They don't anymore. So, and then we'll see what happens with Cuba. We're stepping up the pressure there. I think that's almost inevitable, a major change in that regime or the collapse of the regime, because, they can't even turn the lights on anymore in Havana. And so, again, what you're seeing more broadly now is the president using America's economic influence and power, both to gain partners, but also to pressure our adversaries. I think that's where he's trying to take this conflict with Iran. And it has to be effective. The issue is, and what they're playing on is the politics of this, both for Trump, but I think especially for Netanyahu. Remember, he has an election coming up in October. So you're right, Chris. I think they're trying to exploit that in the short term in order to hang on. But they've been hurt very, very badly. And if we keep the pressure on, even just economically, I wouldn't mind hitting them again militarily. But if we keep the pressure on economically, I think we're going to get a very good result.
And finally, Senator, I have to ask you about the FISA extension that ends on Friday. Democrats have walked away from their support because the president has appointed the FHA director into being the national security directive, whatever the job is. I ask you a question. You know, a lot of folks say that FISA intrudes on Americans' rights with these warrantless, sometimes searches. Others say that this is a vital tool in the toolbox to keep America safe. Which is true?
They're both true. How's that? It is a vital tool. The ability to surveil foreign communications is very, very important, which is the reason this program has continued, notwithstanding the abuses. But there were just indefensible excuses. I mean, there was abuses. There was an IG report a couple of years ago, and they weren't even pretending to follow the rules in terms of unmasking Americans and making sure they had all the backup data and the justification. Now, Congress acted effectively and put them on a leash, and the last IG report was much improved, which is why I think this is going to happen. There's going to be another extension. I don't think it's going to be a long-term one, but there will be an extension. So this is probably an example of the system working. Now, the glitch here is the president has picked a guy who, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a background in intelligence collection, but the president trusts him. And normally he would get what he wants in this. But Congress has a leverage point, which is the administration wants the FISA authority renewed. So we'll see who wins. I mean, if there's anything comforting about this, it does show that Congress is re-energizing a little bit and asserting itself a little bit. So we'll see if the president can work it out. But he may have to pick somebody else to do this, and I'm sure he's got somebody in mind if he has to make a change.
And that's Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. He's on X at Jim Talent. Senator, I know you're going to be doing some traveling this week, and wish you and Brenda safe travels.
Thank you very much, Chris. We're taking a little driving trip, so my wife and I will have, it's mostly business, but some pleasure. We'll have 5 or 6 hours to see if we can find something to talk about after 41 years together. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see.
I hope she's not listening to the show today.
No, she'd tell you the same thing. We've married a long time, my friend.
All right.
We'll probably end up talking about the kids and the grandkids the whole time. So why not?
Senator, thank you for your time. We'll talk with you next Monday.
Okay, guys.
445, Chris's Corner. Have the Democrats abandoned Israel? I'll tell you what I think next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
You belong among the wildflowers. You belong somewhere close to me.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. The plane crash that killed Missouri Governor Carnahan.
Larry Connors, USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL.
We have wild weather swings here in the heartland, don't we? All across the Midwest, we have ups and downs. Wasn't it just like 4 or 5 weeks ago that we were still wearing long sleeves and coats, and now tomorrow they're saying we're going to have epically high temperatures, well, at least for a couple days. Until then, the weather changes again. All of that can be really rough on your trees, which are some of your most prized, expensive assets at your home or your business. So where can you get those treated? Who can treat those for you? Who can take care of those for you? Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com. Hanson's, your one-stop shop for all your tree care needs. Expert insured tree care, including green resource recycling, grinding and land clearing, and more. Hanson's operates throughout the entire St. Louis region and now at the Lake of the Ozarks as well. You can do pretty much everything at hansonstree.com that Hanson's offers. Right there at the top of the page, left-hand side, is the emergency service line. That's also the business number as well. So just go to hansonstree.com, and that's how you can contact them right away. You can also order mulch online, apply for hassle-free estimates, apply for 6 months, same as cash financing, and so much more. Hanson's takes care of little jobs, big jobs, and every type of job you might need them for in between. They've got all the big tools and the big toys to get the job done right the first time. That would include taking down trees, pruning trees, saving trees, because they've got expert arborists on staff at Hanson's. They've got the awesome organic mulch, the magic bean they call it, and so much more. So for all your tree care needs, whether at your home or at your business or at the Lake of the Ozarks, I want you to get a hold of Hanson's. 24/7, 365. They're always available for you if you need them in case of an emergency, and you can reach them during day and during business hours as well by just going to hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, that's all empty and I don't care. So my baby
Many people are calling these allegations domestic abuse or assault. For the record, Plattner denies it. Senator, why are Democrats still behind this guy?
I don't know, but please, I'm going to ask you on your show, it's P. Hustle. Refer to him as P. Hustle. That's his term. You know, he uses that on Kick. He was on Kick, that disgusting platform, for a decade. And then on Reddit, where he says all those terrible things where he smears American soldiers and describe rural Americans are racist and stupid. P. Hustles.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
John Fetterman making more friends among his fellow Democrats. Have the Democrats abandoned Israel? For generations, support for Israel was one of the few issues that the United Democrats and Republicans, not anymore. A new poll from the liberal Zionist group J Street reveals a stunning shift among Democratic voters. 40% of American Jews say they're less likely to support a Democratic candidate endorsed by AIPAC, the nation's most prominent pro-Israel advocacy organization. Among Jewish voters 35 and under, that number jumps to nearly 2/3. Think about that for a moment. AIPAC's mission is straightforward: strengthen the U.S.-Israel alliance and ensure America's closest ally in the Middle East remains secure. Yet increasingly, support for Israel has become politically toxic in parts of the Democratic Party. And now, even many Jewish Democrats are sounding the alarm. According to a recent Axios report, a growing number of Jewish Democrats say they feel increasingly unwelcome within their own party. Democratic strategist Howard Wilson warned that for many Jewish Democrats, the party is becoming the latest institution that welcomed us and now is turning hostile. Florida Congressman Jared Moskowitz says Jewish voters are beginning to lead the Democratic Party, while Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin has warned about anti-Israel rhetoric increasingly crossing the line into anti-Semitism. Several incidents have intensified those concerns, including Democratic candidates associated with anti-Israel activism, controversial comments about Zionists, and rhetoric that many Jewish Americans view as openly hostile towards their community. This didn't happen overnight. We've watched progressive activists accuse Israel of being a colonial state, excuse or rationalize terrorist violence, and demand that America distance itself from the Jewish state. And after the horrific October 7th Hamas attacks that murdered more than 1,200 Israelis, many Americans expected a surge of solidarity with Israel. Instead, on college campuses and in progressive circles, we often saw demonstrations more focused on condemning Israel than condemning Hamas. The Democratic Party base is changing. Younger voters are far more skeptical of Israel than previous generations, and politicians are taking notice. What was once a fringe position on the far left is rapidly becoming mainstream within Democratic politics. The irony is impossible to miss. The party that once prided itself on standing against anti-Semitism is increasingly uncomfortable with organizations whose sole purpose is defending the world's only Jewish state. And now, some of the loudest warnings are coming from Jewish Democrats themselves. Now, none of this means every Democrat has abandoned Israel. Many prominent Democrats remain strong supporters of the U.S.-Israel relationship. But the political winds are clearly shifting, and the numbers don't lie. The question now is whether Democratic leaders will continue following their activist base away from Israel, or whether they'll remember that America's alliance with Israel has been one of the most successful and morally justified partnerships in modern history. And if Jewish Democrats themselves are warning that anti-Semitism is becoming a serious problem within their party, perhaps it's time for Democratic leaders to start listening. That is Chris's Corner.
Yeah, it's definitely become an epidemic on the left. And Chris, I'm ashamed to say that there's some so-called, I call them so-called because I don't know what these people are anymore. They're definitely not Republicans, okay? They claim to be conservatives, but I wonder exactly what sort of conservative ideology they espouse to, because it's not the one that I learned from Reagan through even Donald Trump. But the vitriol with some of these folks, even on the, quote, right, is really horrible. And I think you asked this question a few weeks ago. What is Israel doing to you on a daily basis that causes you to be so upset at the state of Israel and Jewish people? Like, what are they doing? They're 0.2% of the population. Okay, they're very successful, right? And as a if I can stereotype them, is that what people are? They envious? Are they jealous? Because we give a lot of money, right? The U.S. gives billions of dollars to many countries, and I don't see these same people upset about the fact that we help out a country like, I'm just going to make it up, Mozambique. Oh, those Mozambians, they're running the United States government. But for some reason, they think because we give money to Israel, that somehow the Israeli government is running the United States government.
I think most of the anti-Semitism that you're seeing coming from the right comes from the isolationist wing. And they couch their anti-Semitism in saying that Israel has dragged President Trump into a war and has helped him break a campaign promise of not being involved in any foreign wars. That's how they couch it, that Israel is tugging the strings of the United States and we're fighting Israel's war instead of Israel fighting their own war. I think they also cite the fact that we give $3 billion a year to Israel. But what they don't understand, that's not $3 billion in cash.
Right.
That's $3 billion given to Israel so they can buy our weapons to defend themselves.
It's basically like a no-interest loan.
Exactly. And also, too, that $3 billion comes, of course, from the 1977 Camp David Accords where Egypt and Israel made peace. Israel gets $3 billion. I think Egypt gets $2 billion. So you don't hear a lot of the anti-Semites on the left and the right talking about money that we're giving to Egypt. So they couch it in anti-isolationism, but it's just a vitriol hatred of Jews that, Tim, like you, I just don't understand it.
It's like are you and generally, thankfully, this is still limited largely to the bizarre podcaster world, right? These one-offs. It is not a mainstream opinion by most on the right or the left in most media circles, but because there's a lot of, let's be honest, a lot of Jewish people that are in the news and on the news, and a lot of famous Jewish commentators. Many of them are on liberal networks, right? And so it is largely this kind of dark web world of conspiracy theorists on both fringes, and they're largely on podcasts that, except for maybe Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, beyond them, people don't know about these things and don't watch them. I just still can't figure out where the hatred comes from.
And you would just think that these people would understand that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East and that they are an ally of the United States, and we should be supporting them just because of that fact, because they're fighting the terrorists in the Middle East, so we don't have to.
Indeed.
All right, we got Speaker Stump Speech at 5:05.
You cannot be serious.
And we'll have our weekly discussion with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at Red State. We'll ask her about Scott Pelley's New York Times interview. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Let's get real. Here's the truth about eliminating Missouri's income tax.
I'm here with State Representative Bishop Davidson. And Bishop, you've heard the complaints about the proposal. Here's your colleague, Representative Ashley Awney.
Frankly, the only thing that this resolution does is increase sales taxes.
So what does this do and what does it not do if we say yes?
The first part of this constitutional amendment is a constitutional shall. It's a guarantee to the people in Missouri that if they vote for this, that their legislature will enact and shall enact legislation to eliminate income taxes using natural economic growth over time. That means when the economy grows, instead of it going back into the coffers of the state, it goes into the pockets of Missourians. The second part is a constitutional may. It allows the legislature to have a conversation around sales taxes, but only so that they can eliminate income taxes faster and reduce local tax rates like personal property tax and real property.
Get the facts at afpmissouri.com.
Hey, Jamie Ullman here for Window World. Did you know that Window World offers a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor? They are one of the only 2 replacement windows with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Window World St. Louis has been owned and operated by a group of born and raised St. Louis residents for more than 23 years, and now Window World is offering 36 months same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today, 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS.
Hunters, we are about 2 months away from turkey season. Are you ready? Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here, and if you stop by and visit my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, you will be. Whistle Pig is stocked with decoys from Avian X and DSD, clothing from Bandit and First Light, calls from Rolling Thunder and Woodhaven, plus Whistle Pig has those hard-to-find tungsten shells from Apex and Migra. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Just go to whistlepigoutdoors.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Iran's military says it's stopping attacks on Israel. Correspondent Bernie Bennett reports.
Iran's Joint Command said Monday it was halting its offensive operations after Israel and Iran exchanged fire in the first attack since the U.S. struck a ceasefire with Iran 2 months ago. The military says that if Israel or its supporters carry out any further, quote, aggression and hostile acts, including in southern Lebanon, then, quote, much more severe and crushing measures than before will follow. In a post on X, Israel's education minister says schools across Israel remain closed for a second day due to the attacks. I'm Bernie Bennett.
A new poll shows fewer Americans see their country as exceptional as America 250 approaches.
A new AP Norc poll finds that as the U.S. prepares to celebrate its 250th anniversary, fewer Americans see their country or its system of government as exceptional. The findings highlight many Americans' feelings of unease over the future of its representative government, particularly among young people. Only about a quarter of Americans say the U.S. stands above all other countries in the world, and Americans are less likely to see a democratically elected government as extremely or very important to the United States' identity as a nation than they were just a few years ago. I'm Julie Walker.
A powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake has rocked the southern Philippines, killing at least 35 people. Most of the deaths occurred in Sarangani province due to a landslide. The quake struck Monday, causing buildings to collapse and triggering small tsunamis. Waves were detected as far away as Japan. On Wall Street, a mixed day as the Dow was down by 80 points. The Nasdaq, however, rose 220, with the S&P 500 advancing 21, oil near $91 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest in the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
Hey, it's Monday, and that means great pizza at a great price. All three Steph's Pizza locations make Monday great again with a 16-inch large pizza for just the price of a small. You heard right, a large Steph's Pizza, however you would like it, for the price of a small. All three St. Charles County locations of Steph's Pizza are making Mondays great again, and they have a different special every night of the week. Check it out at stephspizza.com.
This is what's happening.
I don't like to let these sick people, these thugs, these horrible, horrible people change the fabric of our life, change the course of what we do.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
He's a disgrace to every veteran that has PTSD, like I do, because he's using it as an excuse to cover up his own personal failings.
Boy, and are there many of them. That was a just man on the street. It was an older veteran in the state of Maine. He was stopped and asked about Graham Plattner, and that's what he said. And that's how I think a lot of people feel. This guy was definitely a Trojan horse and a Manchurian candidate. And even now, it seems like many of the leadership in the Democratic Party are admitting so, if not saying it out loud.
Well, I tell you one thing with this Graham Plattner situation, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy going around, especially on the left side. Tim, whatever happened, believe all women.
Yeah.
When there's sexual allegations against someone. You're hearing this Democrats, because Graham Plattner is the only one they have on the ballot now, they're circling the wagons. They're talking about, well, if these allegations are true, it's terrible, but I'm not voting in Maine. Those Maine voters have to make the decision. That's not what they were saying about President Trump and Brett Kavanaugh and these others who were accused. They were already guilty as charged without any type of evidence, but now they seem to want to give the benefit of the doubt to Graham Plattner, and I think there's just a lot of hypocrisy going on here.
As usual, when the Democrats and the lunatic left and the liberal media latch onto something, don't they always end up hurting the very people they claim they're helping, right? The believe all women, what happened? Boy, the Me Too movement lasted all of about 5 minutes, right? So the Me Too movement, and a lot of times these movements are born out of an actual problem, right? The problem is the left always wants to weaponize it against their enemies, and then they realize they're throwing stones inside their own glass houses. So, Chris, what does that do? That actually ends up hurting the people they want, because now I've got a clip here from, I think, is it Ro Khanna? No, it was Aaron McGuire of Axiom Strategies talking about Ro Khanna. So you got people like Ro Khanna who, look, Ro Khanna, we probably disagree with him up and down and sideways, but he does seem like, as a human being, he seems like a good person, a very smart guy, Silicon Valley guy. But it hurts his credibility, right? Because he now acts like, well, we don't need to worry about all women.
Yeah.
We don't need to worry about the Me Too movement because, well, this is our guy, and so therefore we're going to ignore the fact that he's a Nazi sympathizer, abuser of women.
And compare these cases. Brett Kavanaugh, allegations made against him, no evidence whatsoever. You've got Graham Plattner, who has admitted he was a misogynist while he was suffering from PTSD. You've got 3 women that the New York Times has interviewed, said that they have been rough with him. He has made comments about if someone came into his apartment, he would rape them. I mean, is that enough evidence? What more evidence do you need that these allegations are probably true? He admitted he was a misogynist during PTSD.
He's on a sexual predator app.
What's his name again?
P. Hustle. Grindr? P. Hustle?
P. Hustle.
I'm making things up now. P. Hustle. He's on the app as we speak here today, right? Like, as of, maybe he's removed himself now. I don't know.
I hope so.
But as of last week, he was on the app. Like, people found his avatar.
P. Hustle.
P. Hustle. That's him. He has not denied it. He's essentially had to admit it. And yet we're supposed to ignore all this. Like you said, we're supposed to ignore the hypocrisy. With Kavanaugh, they were trying to get people from 25, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to search through their memory banks of a party with a bunch of 20-year-olds that people may or may not have been at.
They were in high school.
And people may have been there or they may not have been there. And the one woman couldn't remember that she was with the other woman that was making the allegations. I mean, look, if something happened, that's horrible. But we never got a firm understanding of exactly what it was that they were accusing Kavanaugh of. Here we have things happening in real time right before our very eyes. And the Democrats still say, oh, Nazi tattoo? Oh, well, that was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The avatar on the Predator dating site? Oh, that's just boys being boys. I mean, this is unbelievable.
His excuse for the tattoo, Tim, was him and a bunch of drunk 18-year-old Marines out on leave one night, went to a tattoo parlor. They saw the tattoos on the wall that they could choose from to get. They all said, oh, that one's pretty cool. Let's just get that one. That's his excuse.
So don't you then have it taken off when the fourth or fifth or sixth person says?
Well, he didn't know till 30 years later.
Oh, he figured
that this was he didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo until it was brought to his attention during the campaign. But before that, he had no idea. Even though his former girlfriend is noted in the New York Times that he did know what that tattoo meant.
And my understanding is not only is it a Nazi-esque tattoo, it has something to do with, like, the tattoo that the most horrid Nazis who ran the concentration camps.
Yeah, this was an SS tattoo.
Right. It was like it would be like as if someone in the Republican Party was running around with the Confederate battle flag on their chest and had no idea.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's 160 years ago. I didn't know that. Everybody knows that, you know? And so it's the same kind of whataboutism. But it's amazing. I think from what we're seeing, there's a lot of cracks in that ship, and a lot of Democrats are probably going, what do we do now?
They have no one else.
This guy can't be our guy because he's dragging the whole ship down.
Yeah.
See, he's having an effect on the other races now, and that's what they're most terrified about. But because 6 weeks ago, it was 50-50 that they had a chance at the Senate.
Yeah.
That's gone, at least for the time being, and now they're like 14 points underwater on taking the Senate. The House is still very much in play, but they're seeing a lot of their hopes being dashed because of this goofball and weirdo Tallarico in Texas.
And the way that this race is affecting other Democratic races is because these candidates and these incumbents are being asked about Graham Plattner. And the last thing they want to be talking about is him and defending him. They want to talk about their own races. So what do? Do you throw him under the bus? Do you defend him? You know, what they're in a dilemma. And that's what's hurting these Democratic candidates.
And every time I see this guy, Graham Plattner, I feel like they just woke him up and dragged him out of a bed in rehab. You know what I mean? He always looks just a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, I thought John Fetterman didn't look like a senator. This guy definitely doesn't look like a potential senator.
It reminds me of one of our favorite shows we'll watch every once in a while is Maine Cabin Builders.
Yeah.
You know, and this looks like a guy that they found out in the woods somewhere who maybe hasn't seen much of civilization for 20 years. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll know the wheels are truly off the wagon when Bernie Sanders has an about face, because so far he's stuck by his guy.
I think Bernie will stick with this guy to the end because
Bernie's kind of like that
because he's so socialist and agrees and aligns with Bernie's ideals that I think he'll stick with him.
And Bernie wants the rest of the party to continue moving left like it has.
Exactly.
Speaker's stump speech in a moment. More amazing things coming up in the Speaker's stump speech. You cannot be serious. That was the title of the Bruce Melman's Sunday 6 chart that I found interesting this week, and really some real food for thought. Maybe there's a political thing or two in there, but it was largely just kind of like what's going on in the world today and how amazing some of these things could possibly be. Susie Moore joining us, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com. Scott Pelley continues his little hissy fit all across the country. He did a New York Times interview over the weekend. Chris is going to talk about that tomorrow in Chris's Corner. Susie will give us a little update on that as well. And it seems like, it's funny. Maybe I'm a heartless person. I don't care. But like they're talking about Chris, they're talking about all this turmoil at CBS and how horrible it is. I'm just like, so it's like kind of like they've kind of made this bed over the last few decades, and now they have to lie in it. The
latest Graham Plattner. I don't know if you heard this, and it includes John Fetterman. He has vowed to wear a suit if Graham Plattner can prove that he didn't send a D-pic to one of these women that he was having a online sexting affair with.
Wow.
We know what a D-pic is, right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So didn't the aptly named Anthony Weiner do the same?
A Weiner pic. I can say that. A Weiner pic.
Anthony Weiner, the disgraced. Was he a congressman at one point?
He was a congressman in New York, and he was married to
Huma Abedin.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton's friend.
Yeah, I wish she would have used. I wish she would have used her married name because it would have been so great to say Humma Wiener.
Can you say it on the radio? I didn't notice Joey hit the red button, so I guess it's okay.
Hey, that was her name. That would have been her name, Humma Wiener.
Indeed. That's fantastic. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Jeff Allen isn't here today, and thank goodness he's not, because he'd be breaking the door down right now. It is June the 8th, 2026, and I did not forget. I almost, I saved it till this hour, but today's a special day in the Jones home. I want to wish my wonderful wife, Suzanne, a very happy anniversary.
How many years?
Today. It is 24 years.
24 years. That's how long Becky and I have been together.
Isn't that amazing? 24 years. And
That's a long time.
I've known Suzanne for almost 33 years.
And she's still with you.
She's still, I don't know why. I don't know why. I always call her the most patient woman in Missouri. But happy anniversary to the love of my life, my best friend, Suzanne, and I couldn't be happier. It's weird, Chris, it's we celebrated over the weekend, so that's why I kind of forgot about it. It's weird having an anniversary on a Monday.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a buzzkill. It's like you wake up, you look at each other and go, happy anniversary, off to work,
Exactly.
So I won't see you for the next 12 hours, but and then I'll come home and we've got a house full of kids, and and all of that.
Not the
And,
prize. So what did you guys do? Take her out to dinner somewhere nice?
Yeah, we went to actually, this was interesting. Ended up having a very interesting evening. We went to a little storefront restaurant that Suzanne and Abby found a few months ago, and it's right on Kirkwood Road in Kirkwood. And we had no idea, but there was Ethan would have loved this. There was a massive car show in Kirkwood.
Perfect.
So we parked and we're walking down the street. We're like, what is going on down there? And we kind of had to fight our way through the crowd because this little place we went to was right in the middle of this giant car show. And it was kind of cool, though. There were some really sweet rides there from the 50s and 60s and 70s. There were muscle cars. There were just the big old tankers, the big old Oldsmobiles and the Chryslers and the Pontiacs and the GMs. And there were some really neat old Corvettes and some old Mustangs. And at the very end of the evening, we were getting ready to leave, and it was over. So they all fired up their engines.
Oh, it was loud.
Holy smokes. And they headed out. So it was a very nice evening.
So you're going to be doing live endorsements for them soon?
Yeah, I need to see if we can get them on board. Although it's Kirkwood, though, Chris. I don't know. I don't know if they're a cup of tea or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, without further ado, you cannot be serious. I got 6 very wild things for you all to chew on here on a jam-packed Manic Monday.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Ro Khanna runs around this country trying to fight for Epstein victims, but the moment a woman comes forward and accuses a candidate that he is supporting of abuse, he goes silent and does not stand up. They are doing it for naked partisan political reasons, and it's absolutely disgusting. Women deserve to be heard. Victims do. Democrats don't care.
Yeah, right there. Aaron McGuire of Axiom Strategies talking about exactly what Chris and I were just talking about. That is the full frontal hypocrisy of the lunatic left, people like Ro Khanna on full display. He was all over the Sunday talk shows trying to apologize for continuing to stand by his man, Graham Plattner, by not really wanting to stand by him. You could tell Ro Khanna was not really interested in that subject. He wanted to get back to bashing Donald Trump. Here are 6 interesting things inspired, along the line of "you cannot be serious." Of course, that's the famous line that was uttered by John McEnroe, the famous tennis great, who's now the famous tennis announcer back in the day. And this inspired Bruce Melman, The Age of Disruption, to put that out as his topic for this week. If you're ever looking for something that's every once in a while, Bruce does some political stuff, but if you're ever looking for some really good information that isn't like overtly, in-your-face politics stuff, and you're looking just to kind of broaden your horizons, the 6 Chart Sunday is always interesting stuff to look at. Like I said, it's free. You just jump on his Substack and subscribe to this, and you'll get it in your inbox every Sunday morning. Number 1 of "you cannot be serious." Guess what? The chip maker, NVIDIA, may end up ultimately being a better credit risk than the United States of America. NVIDIA's 5-year credit default swap is trading at 38 basis points, just slightly below the U.S. sovereign CDS at 40 basis points. In other words, markets consider the world's largest company, did you know that? NVIDIA is the world's largest company, to be less likely to default on its obligations than the U.S. federal government. I don't know if we should be thankful that NVIDIA is an American company, or we should be terrified that it may be a better credit risk soon than the United States government. Number 2, the world's first $1 trillion man? You cannot be serious. Well, if SpaceX's IPO goes as planned, Elon Musk will become the world's first trillionaire. I don't know what a trillionaire is or looks like when you actually talk about their value. Here was an excellent chart that kind of put this in perspective. Guess how much money that is? That is enough money to buy all 154 NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, Major League Soccer teams, and all of the TV networks carrying their games, NBC, CBS, ABC, ESPN, TNT, on and on and on, with $53 billion left over. Isn't that incredible?
That's DGAF money.
No kidding, indeed. I mean, that's a lot of money. We always think of like a sports owner as an extremely wealthy person, and they are, but $1 trillion just puts that into incredible perspective.
I don't think you could spend that much money in a lifetime. I don't think you could even spend all that money.
I don't think you
be
could.
honest with
And I
you.
think Elon gives a lot of it away. I think he does as well. Number 3, Americans have never been richer, but yet more pessimistic about the economy. Yeah, it's a weird paradox we're in right now. We talk about this often. Get this though, Americans as a whole. I'm not talking about the ultra wealthy and all that, but just Americans, just every day, the median American is richer today than ever before. We haven't had a real recession in 17 years. We've had some ups and downs, but not a real recession in nearly 2 decades. The stock market is at an all-time high and keeps hitting new all-time highs. Home ownership is at 65% of the country. 2/3 of American households own stocks. The unemployment rate is down to 4.3%, and yet we are currently at the lowest level of consumer sentiment in 75 years. It's a strange paradox. I think the mainstream legacy media has a lot to do with that, always talking America down. Number 4, Nickflation. Nickflation. That's a reference to the Knicks. Since 1999, the last time the New York Knicks were in the NBA Finals. I can't believe it's been that long. The CPI increased 2 times. The PCE price index is 1.8 times higher. And the cost of a beer and a hot dog at Madison Square Garden are up over 2.5 times. $9.50 in 1999, $24.50 now. Chris, you often talk about how the price of beer is insane at the ballpark or at the Garden. Yep, and ticket prices, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Ticket prices are like 107 times more expensive than they were 25 years ago. Tuition topping $100,000. Suzanne and I were just talking about this the other day. Some of these colleges, some of these normal colleges, ones that we actually went to, are getting really close to the $100,000 mark. I can tell you my parents wouldn't be sending me to them today. Last year, when including housing and food costs, full-time students who live on campus at private four-year universities and college paid on average $60,000 a year.
Insane.
When you add the cost of books, transportation, additional expenses, that number goes to an average of $65,000. And then we have some universities, like my alma mater of Fordham University, approaching $100,000 a year. My parents weren't able to pay anywhere near that. It was like a fifth of that back when I went there. It's really shocking. And finally, Chris, we talked about data centers, and we often do talk about data centers. And I always say I do work for some organizations that support data center advancement in American energy, American tech. Put this into context. California almond orchards consume 5 times more water than all current U.S. data centers combined. I don't see anybody protesting the California almond orchards, but they sure are protesting these evil, giant computer server software buildings.
It's that poison almond water.
And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today. 5 times more water than all the data centers combined.
Crazy. You know, speaking of the championship game, not the NBA championship in New York, President Trump is attending. Of course, that's controversial, talking about all of the traffic's going to tie it up, and New York fans are probably liberal, so they don't want him there.
The boo birds will be out.
But they're saying that the nosebleed seats in the Madison Square Garden are going for $8,000. The nosebleed seats.
So all the way on the top row.
$8,000.
For $8,000 to be at the Knicks game tonight. Yeah. Wow. You ever been to the Garden?
I have not.
You need to go. You and Becky need to make a trip. You know, you don't want to live in New York, but it's still a great place to visit. It's an amazing facility that has withstood the test of time, right?
Yeah.
They've never said, let's tear it down and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They just keep renovating it. The last time I was there was like 2018, and we saw a U2 concert there. It was pretty kick-ass. It was pretty cool.
And a lot of historic events there. There have been famous boxing matches and all type. I think there's probably been a few presidential conventions there as well.
It's a huge facility, and it's actually multiple facilities within one facility. It doesn't look that big because it's surrounded by skyscrapers, but when you get inside, it's cavernous, and it just goes on and on and on. It's an amazing facility.
I think the ownership of the Yankees own that,
okay.
with the television and broadcasting.
Well, there we
company
go.
associated with that as well.
Indeed. All right. Hey, well, we've got Susie Moore standing by to speak with us next. We're going to talk to her about Scott Pelley, top red state headlines, and more when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL.
You know, to say we had a gully washer here in the heartland this morning would be quite the understatement. Man, I feel like we had feet of rain this morning. Are you worried about your roof? Have you noticed any leaking? But, you know, have no fear. Correll Roofing Company is here. Correll is spelled Correll, 2 R's, 2 L's. They can be found 24/7 online at CorrellRoofingCo.com. CorrellRoofingCo.com. With more than 2 decades and counting of roofing experience in our region, Curtis Correll and the fine, great Americans at Correll Roofing Company are standing by to take care of you today. Just go to CorrellRoofingCo.com. Their office line is up there. Their email address is up there. And everything about the company is online as well. Let me tell you about them. They're awesome people. They are an independently owned, family-owned, locally owned company. They're really great people, and they always want to make sure that you are absolutely thrilled with whatever work they do for you. That work can include a new roof, a new siding, new gutters, and more. Yep, they do it all. They're a one-stop shop at Correll Roofing Company. If your roof has been damaged, or if you're not sure if your roof has been damaged, schedule a free inspection today by simply going to CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CorrellRoofingCo.com. They'll make sure that they are with you from the very beginning to long after the project is done. This is not a fly-by-night storm chaser outfit. They have deep roots in the community. They service the St. Louis and St. Charles metro areas, and they're happy to assist you today. Go to them right now. Check them out. Give them a call. CorrellRoofingCo.com. CorrellRoofingCo.com, your one-stop roofing shop.
Summer is here at Daniel's Farm and Greenhouses on Juggerman in St. Peters. Discover our breathtaking 55,000 square feet of greenhouses featuring 8,000 hanging baskets, hundreds of perennials, and 100,000 pots of colorful annuals. From vegetable plants to premium grass seed, mulch to herbs, our knowledgeable staff is ready to answer all your questions. Start spring off right with pansies, potted tulips, and everything your garden craves. Daniel's Farm and Greenhouses. Visit us today on Juggerman or online at danielsfarmandgreenhouses.com.
This Susie Moore segment brought to you by Harpo's Bar and Grill in Chesterfield.
Well, when you're sitting there in your silk-upholstered chair, talking to some rich folk that you know.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This morning, veteran 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley is calling out CBS leadership as incompetent and inexperienced.
Right now, CBS News, in my view, is on fire.
Part of an emotional interview with the New York Times, his first since being fired from the story broadcast.
There was a thumb on the scale for the president's version of events that I felt was a level of political influence that I had never seen in 37 years at CBS News.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
And he has no idea why he was fired.
Exactly. Let's talk to one of our journalistic experts here. She is Susie Moore of Red State, redstate.com, and the co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. She also has her own show on the weekends, Red State Radio. Susie, how in the world, with a straight face, can we listen to Scott Pelley when he talks about how shocked and chagrined he is to see that there's political influence and bias for the first time ever at 60 Minutes? He cannot be serious, to quote John McEnroe, can he?
Well, I mean, I guess we can listen to him with a straight face if we want to believe what he's shoveling. But so I mean, I think it comes down to where you fall on the spectrum and who you trust as your source of information. And obviously, there's a bubble around the legacy media, and that certainly encompasses CBS News and 60 Minutes and what Scott Pelley and some of his colleagues and cohorts have come to expect and got used to over the years. And now that someone is pushing back and saying, well, you know what, we're going to try and approach this from a more journalistic standpoint and not just one particular viewpoint standpoint, they can't stand it.
What do you think of the fact that Leslie Stahl and some of the other stalwarts there at 60 Minutes have decided to stay on, even though Pelley was fired? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it speaks a little bit to maybe where they are in their career and what they're hoping for the future to hold for them. Leslie Stahl is, I don't know her exact age, but she's older than Pelley. Pelley may still be hoping to make some sort of name for himself by, going out in a blaze of glory and going on to some other kind of project. I suspect that Leslie and her contemporaries are more content to say, we're in the home stretch, don't really want to shake things up. We'll just kind of let it play out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Susie, do you think there's more heads to roll at CBS News and or 60 Minutes in general? I think they're going to do a full house cleaning, or are they just going to wait for people to kind of ride off into the sunset one by one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be dependent on how those people behave. I mean, Scott Pelley made it very, very clear that he wanted to be confrontational and he wanted to pick a fight with new management. I think that there are people who are there who have, been there for a while, who are experienced. If they're willing to, work with the new leadership and see if they can make it work, I don't see there's any reason for them to be shown the door. I think it's just part of it's growing pains, we'll call it.
Susie, I know you probably haven't seen the lawsuit, but I want to get your overall thoughts on the lawsuit that's being filed to stop the UFC fight on the south lawn of the White House. One of the grounds is they're saying that because there's going to be loudspeakers set up, that will disrupt the solitude that occurs at the Vietnam Memorial while people are trying to pay homage to the dead. Your overall thoughts on this latest thing to stop Donald Trump?
Well, I think it's kind of par for the course at this point. He looks one direction, you got to sue over that. He looks the other direction, you got to sue over that. I have actually looked. I haven't looked at the complaint itself. I haven't read through it, but I know that the case is pending before Judge Ahmed Mehta, who is an Obama appointee. So he has told the parties to get their pleadings in by the end of day Wednesday, and then he's scheduling a time on Thursday for a conference if needed for oral argument. So he's going to make a ruling pretty quick. There's one of two ways he can go with this. He can say, this is a temporary situation. We're already, pretty far down the path here. You haven't really, either adequately laid out what your standing is or adequately laid out the harm to justify this. Or he can say, you know what, I am going to make a statement of my own, and I'm going to do what I can to thwart the president and see if I can't, poke the bear enough that he will just say, you know what, I'm not listening to you. It's my 80th birthday. To hell with you. I don't know which way Mehta's going to go. I honestly don't. But I do think if he rules against the event and the construction there, that it's by design, to aggravate the president to the point where he actually is going to actually defy the court, as opposed to what he's been doing for the past year and a half. He's been pushing the envelope, and then he gets sued, and then courts lay down the law, and he says, I don't like it, I hate it, but he's been abiding by it.
Susie, it wasn't just Election Day last Tuesday in California. It was apparently the beginning of another election season, wasn't it? Where we just keep counting the ballots seemingly until we get the result we want. Now, Susie, look, isn't it amazing? I think the president, who got in a big row with Kristen Welker about that very subject over the weekend, has a point, right? Because, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, that guys like Spencer Pratt and Steve Hilton have captured the support of so many otherwise maybe crazy Californians, because they're not necessarily running as hardcore conservative, flame-throwing Republicans, but they're just running as sane individuals who want to save California. Isn't it amazing, Susie, that when a person like that pops up in California, somehow they're always winning on Election Day, but the more the ballots are counted, the more they lose their ground? Like, why isn't it ever the opposite, right? Like, it just seems like a very interesting phenomenon that occurs over and over again. What say you?
Well, part of it has to do with the way Democrats run their ground game and the way that California allows for the ballot harvesting and the ballot curing. I mean, all of the little machinations that they have woven into their screwed up electoral system over the past 20 years or so that are designed to favor the Democrats extremely. So, I mean, on the one hand, you can say they've just kind of weighted the system to benefit them. And because of the nature of the way that they do their voting and collect their ballots, that leans heavily to the late breakers who are going to be, tend to be Democrat voters. That's one way to look at it. You could also look at it and say they're just cheating. Or you could look at it and say, even if they're not cheating, what they're doing is leaving the impression that they are. And either way, it's undermining people's faith in the system and people's willingness to abide by it. And they're just continuing to erode the voters' ability to trust in the process, which is what we're all supposed to be doing, is using elections to have our voices heard, not violence, not overthrowing. But it does seem to sort of invite this, I would say, a healthy skepticism in leaning into, like a real, cynicism about the process. So what they're doing doesn't work. It's not, I don't think anyone thinks that it's not possible to count votes like normal places do. They're doing this by choice, and it's going to come to a head one way or the other.
Susie, I was watching MS Now before I came in today, and they were talking about the elections in California and the slow vote counting. And they actually said with a straight face that because the votes are coming in so slow, that this actually shows that the elections in California are not bad, because they're taking their time and they're being deliberate to make sure the votes are counted correctly.
Right. And everyone else who does it the normal way and gets it done is doing it wrong. Right. Yeah. They got a bridge they want to sell me to while they're at it.
And they said it with a straight face too. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, again, I guess their core audience will lap it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Susie, the Supreme Court term is maybe 20-ish days to go or so, 3.5 weeks to go. We know you are a court watcher, and you often speak about these big cases. What cases are you closely monitoring and waiting to come out? What are you most looking forward to hearing the court finally hand down a decision on?
I believe they've got about 23 cases left to decide. Now, the majority of those are going to be cases that have to do with some wonky criminal procedural rule or something that people aren't particularly tuned into and are going to be like, okay, whatever that is. But the big ones are going to be the birthright citizenship, transgender athletics, when voting is actually done, whether the way California does it is actually constitutional and appropriate, whether the federal government can have a say in that. Those are big ones. The appointments, the whether or not the president has the authority to remove independent agency leaders that are appointed by the president. So it's like, does he have the authority to remove them? So there's 4 or 5 at least that are going to be consequential and really have people, some people are going to be pulling their hair out and other people are going to be, clapping loudly. So we'll see.
Susie, let me ask you your opinion on this regarding these cases. You said there are about 23 cases left to decide. Are these cases already decided? Are they still deliberating on these cases and they're just waiting to release them over the next 20 days? Or are they still deliberating on some of these cases, do you think?
So I've not practiced at the Supreme Court, and I didn't clerk there. But my understanding of the way it works is the ones that are the most complicated tend to be the ones that wait till the end to be released. And it's not because they're trying to build a suspense, but it's because they have to work through those in conference. They have to figure out, okay, well, you're gonna write this concurring opinion. Well, you're gonna write this dissenting opinion, that sort of thing. I mean, the ones where they're unanimous, well, those can go pretty quickly. So it's a process. I don't think they're sitting on 23 already decided cases that are, with the opinions fully written, and they're just, piecemealing them. I think they're getting them out, somewhat in the order that they were argued, but then also in their order of complexity. So that's why it often seems like it's June 29th or June 30th or even July 1st, and we're getting the ACA ruling. Those are the most complex cases. They take the longest for the justices to hammer out and get their, opinions and their concurring opinions all figured out.
And that is Susie Moore of Red State. You can hear her every single morning, Monday through Friday, on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, 5:30 to 9 a.m. Red State Radio is Sundays at 4 p.m. Check out her work on redstate.com throughout the week as well. Fantastic website with all the news you need to know. Susie, thanks so much for everything. We'll listen to you tomorrow morning.
Hard-working lady.
Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.
You too as well. All right. When we come back, Chris has some examples of some rare instances of bipartisanship breaking out across the land.
And I want to get into this Sky Zone incident over the weekend. This is getting absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the hordes of kids, they should all have summer jobs. Let's keep them off the streets. Get off my lawn. 5:43 in the PM. When we come back, we've got all that and more on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. And we might give you a little glimmer of what we're going to review movie-wise on Friday. I think that's where Joey's heading off tonight after the show. Next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated shower storm possible this evening and overnight into the morning hours with a low of 74 degrees. Flood watch continues until 7 a.m. Tuesday. In the afternoon, any storms will be east of St. Louis Tuesday afternoon, but a high of 93 and a heat index of 107 due to extreme near-record humidity on our Tuesday. So it is a First Alert weather day because of that dangerous heat, and it continues with another First Alert weather day on Wednesday. Heat index not quite as bad, but still around 102 with mostly sunny skies. The high Wednesday, 95. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
2 American pilots are dead after a private jet crash in the Dominican Republic. It actually happened yesterday at an airport there. Former Cardinal star Yadier Molina says the plane was on the way to pick him up in Texas. Molina and his group of family and friends were headed to Puerto Rico.
5:46 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and a sad story there. And those type of stories always gives me the creeps, because I know Yadier's probably thinking, man, I was supposed to be on that plane. What if it had made it here safely, and on our way back to Puerto Rico or Dominican where he was going, it would have crashed. Now, that's one of those stories that have you thinking.
Freakish. That plane crash that occurred at DCA last winter, when that entire it was horrific, right? And there was like an entire ice skating team on competition team.
Yeah.
And Chris, I mean, that flight, you and I have been on those flights going into DCA at night, in the morning, in the afternoon. I've flown out of DCA. I try not to think about it when I land and take off there. I just hope to God I get up and down, because that one really hit home for me. But you're right. When these things happen and you're like, holy smokes, I was supposed to be on that flight. You wonder, why by the grace of God was I not?
Yeah.
What does that mean for me? Kind of an esoteric question.
Makes you think about life. All right, let's
make sure you listen to Larry's story behind the story, because he's talking about Mel Carnahan.
The plane crash.
And that plane crash.
Was that the year ago today? That was around the election. That was in November or something. That was in November, October.
No, it was today, wasn't it?
Well, I have to listen.
It might have a good tease there. All right, let's get into this story in Shrewsbury about the 6-7 event. It was at a Sky Zone. Police say that 10 or 12 juveniles were arrested. They were remanded to their parents in custody. I mean, this stuff is just getting – I almost cursed. This stuff – I admit it. I almost cursed.
On this your radio show?
This is really, really getting out of hand now. And, of course, social media is exacerbating this, because people want to put their video up and watch this. There was an event somewhere else where somebody recently, a group of kids over the weekend, tore up a restaurant again. But the scary thing about this whole story is in the Shrewsbury Police press release, talks about a butcher knife was seized from a 12-year-old girl who used a Uber to the area from Florissant. That's a pretty good hike. She saw the fights on social media, Tim, and she said she wanted to be involved. So a 12-year-old brings a butcher knife to a disturbance halfway across the county.
A 12-year-old.
And it just makes you think. I mean, a 12-year-old adolescent brain is not fully developed yet, obviously, from this story. But, I mean, I had enough sense as a 12-year-old to realize that if I'm taking a butcher knife or any type of weapon to a fight, there's the possibility that I could stab someone, kill someone, and my life is basically over. It's amazing to me that these kids nowadays don't have that much foresight to think about the consequences of their actions.
I'm sorry. If you want to call me an elitist, privileged, suburban snob, fine. I helped. I didn't raise. My wife mainly raised them. I was around. I helped raise 2 wonderful daughters. And so I know 12-year-old girls, right?
Yeah.
And they had lots of friends. And forget about my daughters. They had lots of friends. And I can't think of a single 12-year-old I've ever run into that would think, it'd be a great idea to go get a butcher knife and go to a skirmish.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sounds insane. Versus, I'm going to go play in the mud in the backyard.
Just the thinking process. And
like, how do you get to that point? I don't know.
I'm hearing, too, some of the reasons that maybe these kids are, quote-unquote, wilding at these different events. One of the excuses that I heard, because malls are going away, they're the way of the dinosaur now. These kids don't have any places to hang out. What do you think? What do you think of that excuse?
Go to Vacation Bible School, I mean.
There you go. That's a good, I mean, we're laughing, but that's a good suggestion. Go to Vacation Bible School.
And in all seriousness, I'm going to throw out something that I know is extremely affordable, if not free, and is available all across the region, because my younger daughter, who's now not 12, she's now 17, that's where she's working this summer. They have summer camps at the Ys, right? The YMCA is about as American as an organization you can think of. They're nonpartisan. Yeah, I know originally Christian-based, right? But they don't really wear that.
They don't say that
They
anymore.
don't really wear that. It's a pretty normal place, right? And you can walk into a Y anywhere in the region, and if you're a Y member, you're warmly greeted. And they have summer camps, right? They have summer camps every single week. So that's something you can do.
Or go to summer school.
Yeah, there's
to get some extra credits.
There's Boy Scouts. There's Girl Scouts. There's stuff you can do with your all the churches.
Yeah.
All the churches do offer programming, and a lot of these things, Chris, they're free. And instead of just being like, well, I don't know, Johnny Jane, go out and play in the street with the butcher knives. Maybe the parents should think of doing a little planning and making sure their kids have something to do in the summer versus just letting them run loose.
I mean, it's, we're laughing about this, but this is a really, truly sad commentary that a 12-year-old would take an Uber to Sky Zone with a butcher knife, intending to want to get in, quote unquote, on the fun.
That's wild.
And she said she brought it for protection. So insane.
Probably just marketing for that Michael Jackson biopic.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
All right. Okay, there was some bipartisan.
Your butt is mine.
You're terrible.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to continue on that. All right.
Executive producer Joey V.
Exactly. That was a good one. There was some bipartisanship last week in Congress, Tim.
Really?
Yes. The Republicans beat the Democrats 7-5 in the congressional soccer match.
Okay.
I had no idea there was a congressional soccer match. I know they have baseball. I know they have
Baseball's
football.
This week. Yeah.
But, Republicans seem to do much better in these athletic contests than Democrats. I think it's safe to say Republicans are better athletes than Democrats.
Is it all the soy?
It could be the soy.
The Democrats are eating all the soy.
But, what should help them, especially when they have the females competing in these sports, Democrats believe in transgenderism, so they can have some men that pretend to be females compete against Republican women and win handily.
Ooh, that would be a scandal. I did not know there was a congressional soccer match. I think the congressional baseball game is tomorrow, and our very own U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt and Congressman Eric Burleson, they both play on the congressional men's baseball team.
I know Schmidt is a very good athlete. I think he played baseball in college at Truman University, and we've seen the highlights a year or two ago, and I think he hit like a double and a triple, and I don't know if he threw someone out from the outfield, but he has a pretty good strong arm.
He can hit some towering hits, indeed. He's a towering guy.
And speaking of Senator Eric Schmidt, he and Wesley Bell hosted the second bipartisan bicameral congressional chess tournament.
Hey.
It was at the Kennedy Caucus Room. 10 members of Congress played against visiting students and members of the St. Louis Chess Club. Schmidt, Bell, Representatives Ann Wagner, and Bob Onder participated in this tournament, along with Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley.
Oh, boy.
The winners were often the visiting students, according to this report.
Of course. So, from Uzbekistan, yeah. Well, good to see Missouri well represented in the Game of Kings.
Exactly. We know that the World Cup, of course, is this summer in Los Angeles, and Iran and the United States are currently at war. Iran plays their games in Los Angeles, but they will be staying in Mexico, Tim. They will not be in the United States. This will be the first time in tournament history that a host nation will receive a country that it's at war with.
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess that's a notable history there.
Try to be good athletes and good sportsmen, and yeah, those World Cup games, those matches have already started all across the country.
And they can't sell them out.
I know. My nephew got to go to one. I guess he's in Cleveland, and he said he saw Brazil play Egypt. So maybe that was one he could afford to go to.
Exactly. Joey, are you a gamer?
I used to be, but not so much.
How excited would you be if you were still a gamer to travel to the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport? They are having their first of its kind premium video game lounge. The Portal Lounge has over a dozen stations with Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation consoles, plus custom-built gaming PCs. A dancing, happy, robotic bartender named Tony mixes drinks and you can order at a nearby touchscreen. How cool is that? Have a robot bring you drinks while you're gaming.
This sounds like some of the great stuff I've experienced on the cruises I've been to. On Royal Caribbean, they have a robot that does mixed drinks, and then I always find the arcades. In any Disney vacation or cruise ship, I do find the arcade, and I bring out that gamer side of me when I'm on the ship. I love it.
Speaking of gaming, you'll probably be interested in this, Joey. Old TV sets are flying off thrift shop shelves. Retro video game fans say old titles look and play better on cathode ray tube CRT sets that they were originally designed for, with less lag and better colors. The trend is going viral on TikTok and other social platforms for many of the same reasons behind vinyl's music comeback. There's analog comfort to CRTs in an increasingly ugly digital world. It was kind of amazing. We were at the Nixon libraries and had these old TVs that were showing like tapes of Nixon on the news or Reagan on the news and everything. But they were actually computer screens that they found in old TV and took the TV out and just used the shell of it and put it around a computer screen and try to fake you out and think that you're watching on an old TV.
I remember those big old TVs.
Yeah. Oh, you remember the ones back in the day? I mean, they were like 500 pounds.
Heavy.
And they were like really big, and you could put everything in there. We had one of those things.
We did too.
It was like a TV and a stereo.
You never wanted to move it.
No, never wanted to move it. All right. Great show today. Coming up, Larry Connor's USA is at 6 o'clock. The story behind the story today is Mel Carnahan's plane crash. I guess that may have happened 20-something years ago today. Larry Connors will discuss all of that and more. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning,